What is up, guys? It's your boy, Rick Akakis, and today we are going to be showcasing the brand new Heartshadow Exotic Sword just added to Destiny 2 with Season of the Haunted Season 17. Now, this weapon is an incredibly rare drop from the brand new Duality Dungeon, and quite frankly, this new exotic is saucy. Like, it is in contention for one of the best swords in the entire game, and so let's get started. Now, first things first, if you want to take on the Duality Dungeon for yourself, check out my complete guide, everything you need to know in terms of encounters, mechanics, jumping puzzles, and the like. But moving on to this dungeon reward, firstly, let's take a look at its perks. Now, intrinsically, it has Exhumation. Heavy attacks made with full sword energy turn you invisible and fire exploding void projectiles. Okay, so starting off pretty darn wild, but there's actually another unique trait here with Shot in the Dark. Remaining invisible grants this weapon increased damage for a brief duration. Hitting a target with this weapon's projectiles while Shot in the Dark is active weakens them. Alright, so let's go over the intricacies of what that actually looks like in-game. So at a base level, as you can see, I do the sword heavy attack and boom, I instantly turn invisible and I shoot out about 4 void projectiles that, as you can see against red bars, seem to do a significant amount of damage. Like, popping this thing's heavy attack is almost equivalent to throwing a grenade when it comes to its ad clearing capabilities. Now, something important to know is that this mentions invisibility and going invisible and triggering stuff with invisibility. Is it just talking about the sword, or is it talking about other sources of invisibility? Well, I'm playing a hunter, and as you can see right here, I'm going to hit this guy with a sword swing, nothing going on, 28,000 damage. Then I'm going to go invisible due to my class ability, so nothing to do with the sword, but as you can see, when I'm invisible, Shot in the Dark is actually active in the corner of my screen, and then I'm going to hit for 35,000, almost 36,000 damage, and that is a 25% increase, which is pretty significant. So the fact that this sword synergizes with, for example, Invisibility Void 3.0 Hunters, which are already extremely good and extremely meta right now within PvE, is going to rise the power level of this sword pretty substantially. But this is not actually the only synergy. As you can see, when I'm getting kills here and turning invisible, I get about 9 seconds. But that's actually with the Void Fragment on that increases my invisibility duration. If I take that off, I'm down to 7 seconds. So you can slot this into an already existing Invisible Hunter build, and stuff like the Graviton Forfeit helmet, fragments and all that stuff, that's all going to synergize with this exotic. So again, huge degree of power there. And to add on to that, something else that you guys need to realize is that you don't even need to use this thing like a sword. I mean, going invisible just requires that heavy attack. You don't even need a kill for it. And so you can basically use your heavy like an instant invisible button. Oh no, I'm in trouble. There's a champion coming at me. I just whip this out, I melee, and I go invisible. There you go. So again, on an already existing Invisible Hunter build, you can potentially swap out, having to dodge to go invisible, because this is now your new consistently recharging invisibility. In fact, as you can see from the background gameplay, your heavy attack recharges so fast, as long as you have ammo, you're going to be able to do another heavy attack before the invisibility of the first one wears out. Again, I am using the longer invisibility fragment here, but still, that is pretty incredible. But it also gives that ability to Titans and Warlocks. Again, they can now consistently go invisible. And it's not like doing that is just a nice party trick, it's actually quite useful. I mean, put on the Aeon Gauntlets, go invisible with this sword, sneak up to a champion, and boom, there's your heavy for your team. In fact, sneak up to a champion while invisible, start damaging that champion with increased damage because of Shot in the Dark, all of that stuff, get him weak, finish him. That's a very good combo. Oh, and by the way, when you do finish him, you simply put on the Void Fragment that gives you invisibility for getting a finisher. And how easy is it to set up a finisher when you're already invisible from the darn sword? Like, you can see how well this goes with Void 3.0. And the other factor of this sword that really just sets it over the edge is that darn weaken effect. Because here's what happens when you damage a boss. As you can see, you can maybe lead off with that heavy attack, you go invisible, all that stuff, or you go invisible, then you heavy attack, but often you are going to not only be triggering that extra damage from Shot in the Dark. And something important to mention here is that Shot in the Dark is active for several swings. It does not just apply that 25% damage boost to one swing. Like, often it's 3 or 4. So you gain 25% increased damage for a few seconds, and often you also hit that target, hit that boss with those void projectiles, and that is gonna apply a weaken effect, which is the debuff to take more damage. I mean, usually, when you are running swords, if you're sword DPSing a boss, and by the way, I mean, the new dungeon where this comes from, swords are legit the strategy for one-phasing a lot of the bosses in it. It's not like swords are bad, but again, in those sword DPS strategies, you often have someone having to use either weakened grenades or even like tractor cannon. Like, one guy uses tractor cannon to give the weaken effect for everyone else. But you're telling me the sword I'm DPSing with can also play the role of that tractor cannon user and apply a weaken effect for the entire team, right? Weakening an enemy applies to everyone around you. It's not just you. So potentially one guy running this sword is going to constantly provide that weaken effect for everyone else in your team doing that DPS phase. What an incredible synergy, and exactly what you want when doing a group sword DPS phase. And I mean, just judging from using this thing, when you do get that weaken effect and that damage increase and everything is going, you're outputting a substantial amount of damage. We're gonna have to test with this thing more to see, if it's better than Fallen Guilty and all that stuff. It certainly is hungry. It uses up quite a lot of ammo because your heavy attack recharges so fast. When you're spamming it, you're just like running through your heavy ammo, so that's definitely a downside. But again, the utility of this weapon, going invisible, as we proved to ad nauseum last season with Invisible Hunters, it's just so useful in pretty much every piece of content out there. So giving that ability and that consistent ability, like your heavy attack recharges unbelievably fast for how powerful it is, to all the classes out there, it synergizes with existing builds very well, and when push comes to shove and you just gotta whip out your sword and start swanging and banging, it's actually doing a considerable amount of damage, providing a debuff and increasing its own damage. Like, this thing is absolutely no joke. 100% worth going after, worth grinding for. Definitely again in this season, because swords are in the meta right now, especially for that dungeon. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, found this informative, and if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus, that is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.